Hey everyone, this is Clinton,
And this is Dalton.
and this is the LA Do Wrestling Podcast.
So without further ado, let's get ready to podcast!
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the LA Do Wrestling Podcast. We talk about all wrestling from the past, present, and future. Today we have a very special episode for you, but first we have some updates on the channel, and we have some recent events in wrestling.
That's right. First, starting off with the updates. As you may notice, if you are an
Avid listener.
avid listener, I was gonna say true listener, but that'd be sounding like Stan Lee, like true believer. No, if you are an avid listener that have stuck around for at least a majority of the episodes, you'll notice that when we first started, we took a long hiatus, about a month, I believe, and it was because our equipment messed up. Well, if you'll notice, at the time of recording, the latest podcast episode, episode 6, was 4 weeks after episode 5. 4 or 5.
Yeah.
The problem is the real world caught up with us. Me and Clinton both have school and work. We both go to college at the moment. Ethan, the wrestling podcast editor, he has had work. He's had longer hours than us. And just editing the podcast has been kind of on the back burner, unfortunately, because but in between the 4 or 5 weeks that the episode 6 took to come out. After episode 5, it was about 2 weeks after that or so that we recorded it. Because if you notice, it's about episode 7, I do believe, on the regular podcast. Episode 6 or 7. I think it was 7. Was 2 weeks after episode 6. And we recorded that right around the same time as episode 6 for the wrestling podcast. And it kind of, with editing, Clinton edits the main podcast at the moment. Ethan edits the wrestling podcast. Well, with work, Clinton was able to get the podcast up before he started his latest job. And he was able to get it edited and done. Ethan, while he was having less hours, got more hours. So everything kind of got messed up there. That's why you notice that we don't have... It took about a month to get the last podcast episode out. And, it's life. It happens. Unfortunately, it's the second break that we've had, technically. But it does not mean that we haven't had ideas for the podcast, especially because we've been, thinking about new series to do on the wrestling podcast as well as the regular podcast. And we've been, discussing a transition into a more physical podcast, especially for YouTube. Showing more of a setup and, actually seeing us. So that's not just voices anymore. And of course, that takes time. We're looking at that at least end of 20.
Money.
Yeah, it takes money. So we're looking at doing that hopefully by the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and transitioning into the physical form of the podcast, which may look rough in the beginning, to be honest. It probably will look a little rough. We're going to have to do some changes to scenery and figure out how to edit that kind of stuff, since audio is easy enough compared to video. And I have edited videos before. I've edited audio and videos before for different projects and stuff. So I do know how tedious it can be, especially when you're trying to be precise with it, especially if you have to sync up the audio. So that'll definitely be something to look forward to. Quick little update, but so thank you for bearing with us if you are still an avid listener. I know that if you are an avid listener, if you look forward to listening to the podcasts and stuff, it does kind of suck that it doesn't get out as quick. But hopefully, as we try to help each other with work and just get the podcasts edited, we may transition into a temporary editor, one of us editing one of the podcasts and the other one editing the other one, so we can help each other out. not get rid of each other, keep the same core four with Chance as the podcast musical engineer. So, something to look forward to, a little update. But now, let's talk about some current events that have recently happened. Starting with All Elite Wrestling, AEW has announced 3 games. 3 new games. One of them being a console game, and 2 of them being mobile games. The mobile games include All Elite Wrestling Elite General Manager, which takes on the role of kind of like football/soccer manager, to where you build up your team, you go against teams. But there have been a lot of like wrestling general manager video games on like mobile devices and stuff that have like really took off, to where you book the event, you book the superstars, and you generate a show to see if it's good or not. WWE games had the same thing in general manager mode. Unfortunately, they removed that feature after SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. It is a very sought after mode that AEW took a jab at. They talked about GM mode is back, which I don't like either company taking. I know this is a quick tangent. I don't like either company taking jabs at each other. I know they did it often in the Monday Night War for WWF and WCW. That's just, I don't like that, to be honest. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's good competition. To me, it seems childish. And it's both sides. Whether it's subtle or very blatant, I think competition can be competition, but when you just all out just go and be childish about it, like both companies have done in the past. Even WWF did it, WCW did it, AEW's done it. I'm sure TNA's done it, Impact. ECW did it. It's not, it makes a fan kind of look down on the company. I know that I don't like it when I see Jericho does that as a joke most of the time, with the demo god. But other than that, like, I'm not a huge fan of it. I know people can be, especially if you're pro one side like WWE and pro AEW, or pro NXT and pro AEW. That's, different. But to me, I just don't like it.
What makes me happy about the jab, like, I think it's childish as well, but what makes me happy about the jabs they did at GM mode and for their AEW General Manager mobile game, is that I think it's going to push 2K to do the GM mode for 2K22.
Well, my thing is,
like, they had already been talking about, like, that's the most wanted feature.
Yeah, the guy,
we'll look into it, this and that.
The guy that took over Visual Concepts, I think he took over Visual Concepts, like 2K, pretty much for the games. I think it was Visual Concepts that he took over, at least the community. He has said, they opened up, I think it was was it Reddit? I think it was Reddit.
Something like that. It was either that or
2K games,
W2K
games.
2K
forum or something.
Yeah.
He, did say, hey, put comments on here, put something that you would like to see in the games. I really want to help, do this game justice for 2K21. Or I'm sorry, 2K22 is what it's going to be. It's not going to be 2K21.
If there would have been a 2K21, it had already been out.
It would have been garbage. But, he has said, like you said, there's, the most wanted features, GM mode. And if that's been done not only on that, but I think polls on Twitter and stuff like that. So it makes you want it more. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like you said, it is childish, but them taking the jab, it will push them forward to doing it. But
I'd like in a 2K game right now?
What?
Like, you can do like a custom Titantron. Can we just do custom Minitrons as well? Like, that would also be nice too. Or just be able to convert the Tron to the Minitron.
That would be nice. Or at least, like, do a custom Tron that would just be for the Minitron.
Yeah, just so you can do it for both. Like, so you're completely customized rather than just, you can make your character, you can make your entrance, you can make your moveset, you can make your Titantron, but not your Minitron. You gotta copy
and add music.
Someone else for that.
And
add music.
Like, to where if you have a Spotify or something, you can just link the music to it.
Yeah. Or just do what you used to do and just kind of convert music over from, like MP3 files and all that stuff. Which I know
that might be a little harder now.
That's old and hard to do. But I mean, if it makes it easier,
you're really telling our age.
If it makes it easier than having to license something from Spotify or Pandora or something like that, then just do it. You know what I mean? We'll find a way.
For those unaware, on PS3, it might have been other systems too. I know it was for PS3. If you had audio files like MP3 files on your phone, you could plug up your phone via USB, connect it to your PS3, and then download music files onto the PlayStation to where you can use it for WWE games. That's like if you had a custom character, say you had AJ Styles in SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. That's random. They might have still been able to use like their own themes, I think. But something like that, you have AJ Styles' TNA theme. And it was something you could do, and it was fun. But GM, Elite General Manager, that is their first mobile game. Their second mobile game. The first one, the Elite General Manager, is still in development. But something that is coming out later this year in the holiday for December is All Elite Wrestling Casino Double or Nothing. So it is a mobile, like, I don't want to say gambling game, but it's a game. It's a casino game. To where I guess you could play like poker or cards on your phone. So that might, hopefully they don't do it to where you have to spend actual money. Like some games probably do. So hopefully it's not like that. Hopefully it's just for fun. Maybe you can win actual money. I don't know. They didn't really go into that much detail about it. They kind of just showed and talked about it. So there's your two mobile games. And their third game, this is also kind of like a big middle finger to WWE, I think. In a subtle but not subtle way. Because AEW, their console game that is current, as quoted by Kenny Omega, that is coming to current and next-gen console platforms, will be, it's untitled. There's no name for it. It's an AEW game with Ukes as the developer. For those of you that don't know, Ukes was the developer for pretty much everything WWE leading up to the 2K deal. I know they did all the SmackDown vs. Raws. They did All-Stars. They did Legends of WrestleMania. What else? Did they do the SmackDown games, or was that somebody else?
I think they did the SmackDown and SmackDown vs. Raw, which is still kind of the same thing. But
so they did the SmackDown games. Ukes did a lot of things in the past, but the Day-to-Day games, that was Ukes. They made it fun, until 2K came up, and it started getting, in the WWE 12 and Day-to-Day 13, it started kind of slowing down. 2K came in. 14 was good for what it was. Then it was slowing down more. They took out a lot of customization stuff, added them back. I know they took away custom Minitron or Titantrons for a while, and then they came back and did it, and it sucked. Custom Trons were really cool back in like 2K12, 2K13. Those were interesting, and then they made them crap and a lot more difficult to do.
I think the biggest thing was that I could also say this with THQ with Day 12 and Day 13.
Yeah.
But my thing is by the time
actually, let me say something about it. Ukes was a developer, not the publisher.
Yes.
THQ was the publisher for, I think, all of the SmackDown vs. Raw games. But Ukes was the ones that developed, created the game, created the models, that kind of stuff, where 2K took over with visual concepts for 2K20. Sorry for that, but I remembered that. I was like, I kind of need to say that because they're not the ones that published the games. They developed it.
But my thing is that by the time we hit Day 12, and more importantly when we hit Day 2K15, was that we started playing sports games.
Yeah, it was a simulation.
Even though I like the idea that WWE is a sport, for the most part, it's sports entertainment. But for the most part, it's kind of a sport. You got stuff, and they have to do things that other people in other sports do.
Yeah.
But my thing is that WWE, or just wrestling in general, is not just a sport. It's also entertainment.
Yeah,
and the thing is that they made the video game like just a sport.
Well, they transitioned it into a fun button masher game, pretty much a fighting game. to a simulation game.
And
That's what the
and for
WWE
most
series
part,
had became, because it became just like NBA where you just press a button
for the
and
most
you
part,
shoot.
I do somewhat like the simulation stuff, but I also don't like how we've taken away from some of the more fictional parts of wrestling, and like we don't have the creative story anymore and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you don't get that fictional side of wrestling, which is a part of it, and we actually enjoy. So I mean, that's the thing, is that I mean, you just take away from some of the stuff.
Yeah. Well, that goes more into like some of the creation, like you said, the creation stuff. But like gameplay wise, they went from, to where you had to physically try to, press buttons to get out of a submission, to get out of a pin, to do this, to do that, to just, you just press a button. That's all you gotta do. You press a button and you get up. You press a button, or not even that. You don't even have to press a button to get up, I don't think. It just makes you get up after a certain amount of time. You press a button to, hit, pin, this and that. It's not. They said they simplified the stuff. They didn't simplify it at all. They made it more difficult. I had 2K20 for about a year. Barely played it in the beginning, like in the first half of a year. Played it for a year. I then figured out how to lock up by
my
a mistake.
big thing is, how can you simplify the formula of how to do the button pressing and all that stuff when it used to be one button to do certain things and now you have to press two?
Well, yeah, that too. But also, here's the thing. It made it even more simulated because you're pressing two buttons and it's doing the move for you. You're not, like, you can hit these buttons in a certain order and it does the move like it used to be. You know what I mean? To make it seem fun, not just, hey, press this, press that, press that, I win.
But, I mean, the thing is that I have hope
It's
for
the same
2K.
thing with football games.
Yeah. I
And
have
basketball
hope
games.
for 2K22. However, I'm super excited for the AEW console game, only because I feel that they liked the games from WF, No Mercy, and all that stuff so much that I feel like they're going to try to do what they can to do what they can.
When they said that, when they mentioned No Mercy, because everybody said, we want a game like No Mercy, this and that, because everybody says that's the greatest wrestling game. My thing is, when they say No Mercy, I feel like it was a button masher probably, but if you try to do something like No Mercy, the same kind of stuff in 2020, 2021, it's not going to be as good. When they first showed off like the original little thing, it looked good. It was not, a finished product. Not at all. The first footage was definitely kind of rough. Not rough per se, but it was, you could tell it was, not actual gameplay like most games do. It's not the actual gameplay. It's, recreated. But if that's what the models look like, they're good. They're probably going to tweak them a little bit. They're good. They reminded me, and I said this when we were watching the live stream, they reminded me of All-Stars. Not because of the way they were built.
It kind of reminds me of the TNA game.
Yes. Actually, that is a better TNA Impact.
Because my
That's
thing
a
is
better one.
Is that even though they're more bulky people in the game, like instead of like, having like a straight like regular model, they're supposed to look a bit more buff, and they're supposed to like
that's what I noticed with Kenny Omega and Jericho in the trailer. They did kind of look kind of buffed up.
The thing with All-Stars is they were supposed to look
cartoony. Yeah.
With TNA, the 2008 video game, they were supposed to look a little bigger than they're supposed to and all that stuff. But the thing is the whole point of that game was, instead of going to more of the slowed down, and even at that
realistic
point,
style,
WWE was doing more. They didn't go to the simulations quite yet.
It started getting there.
They slowed down the formula just a little bit.
Yeah.
And the thing is with TNA, it was more of just the action packed, like fast paced games. And I think that's what AEW is trying to do, and I think that maybe it's it's for the best of the gaming wrestling community, I suppose.
And when I said, it looked like All-Stars, I meant as in not cartoony, but more bulked. Because Jericho and Kenny Omega, they did look more bulked up. Just a slight bit. But then again, like I said, this is, the first little model. So they showed off a little bit of the model. Not necessarily gameplay, because it wasn't actual game footage. It was more just a creation of it. And it was a little bit of game footage, probably, because, it's the same motions and stuff. They did kind of confirm that at least one arena was Dynamite. They pretty much confirmed that there are intergender matches because I don't know exactly who it was that came in and hit Kenny Omega in the trailer, or a little teaser trailer, but it did kind of show that you will have intergender matches in the game, which you can go either way with. Not really going to give my opinion on it, but if you can't tell, I'm not really a fan, but that's probably a topic for another day. And at the end, it did show, you can tell that they were serious when they said this is not finished, because it showed like the work in progress, kind of like the
It showed your old
3D model,
blue, green, and red people.
but they were kind of stick men.
Like,
They're kind of stick men because
yeah,
it showed how like the physics was gonna work of the Young Bucks doing the Meltzer driver. Now you couldn't tell it was the Young Bucks. You could tell by the move, but you couldn't tell by the faces because there was no face, there was no model. It was like the basic, like you were saying, like in old WWE games, the green and red guy doing a move. It was like the basic model showing the physics of it. So you know it's not finished, and they've been developing it, so it's not. I will say that. Actually, I know what they're gonna do it. They're gonna compete with WWE and release it around October of next year, of 2021. It'll be done by then. Because if Kenny Omega said they've been working, literally 24/7 on the game, that means that it will be out probably around October this time next year. So
I think the game really does have potential, though.
it has potential. You just have to. I don't know if I'll be the type of person who gets it launch. Maybe, I don't know. Same thing could probably be said about the 2K22. I don't know if I'll get it launch, just because the way it's been, If it has favorable reviews...
If it's got GM mode, I'm getting it.
Yeah. If it has favorable reviews, like, before it comes out, I'll get it, and I'll try it. But, I don't know. I'm skeptical about both. Not just one. Both companies' games, because it's like, one of them, it's like, all right, they have a little bit of something to prove, because, they're with Ukes. That used to be WWE. They have the guy that developed No Mercy working on, or helped work on No Mercy working on this one. So, they have a lot of room to prove. It'll automatically be better than 2K20, but then you have WWE who are looking to get that ground back because of the failure of 2K20. So they're really wanting to do it. But other than that, not really much. I don't think there's really much more to talk about and discuss.
There's been some things, but mostly it's just been kind of, basic wrestling stuff. So,
yeah, more stuff with Twitch that we're not really going to get on here.
Whatever. It's stupid, and that's all.
I will say it is a good thing that Paige did not get harmed in the recent stalker incident.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's same thing with the Sonya Deville thing from a while ago.
But this one, I don't know if there was an attempt to harm. I don't know if that was
was it just a fan that was just like found the address?
No, what she had said was the guy they had months of like anonymous gifts being sent, like I guess from the same guy, and then he showed up. I didn't really read into it as much to see like if the guy tried to make a move, if he did anything. I know that Paige's current boyfriend, I don't remember his name. He's like the front man for not Popular Monster. That was her song, Falling in Reverse. He got him in a chokehold, I know. Or got him in a certain, I guess, I would assume chokehold. But I don't think he choked him the entire time until the cops came there, because he probably would have been dead.
Yeah.
He got him in a hold, it said. Kind of similar to the Daniel Bryan incident, to where he put a burglar in a chokehold. But not, obviously the guy wasn't trying to steal. He was a stalker.
Yeah.
So it good thing that nothing happened.
Yeah. But, besides that kind of stuff, some crazy things have been happening in the wrestling community, but at the same time,
legal things have been
happening. There's some plain stuff that's been going on too.
Cody Rhodes is now Cody Rhodes again. I will say that.
Oh, yes.
WWE did drop their trademark for Cody Rhodes. I guess just Cody Rhodes, not Rhodes in general, because they still have the Dusty Rhodes Classic. So they dropped the.
That they rarely do.
They did it this past year.
Yeah, but.
They did drop the trademark for Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes is now Cody Rhodes again. He was just going by Cody or the American Nightmare Cody. Originally, he said he was just going to use it for like TV and stuff, but he used it at the latest pay-per-view, Full Gear. So I guess he's using it like all the time now. But moving on from current news, let's get into talking about today's special episode. Today's special episode will spawn a series that we would do possibly every month, if not every other month, depending on how we feel about certain events. This will start the fantasy booking series, how we would book a certain pay-per-view. This episode, episode 7, is fantasy booking, how we would book Survivor Series 2020. In this, we kind of took the liberty of, this year's Survivor Series is just SmackDown versus Raw. There is a number of reasons to why SmackDown is just SmackDown versus Raw. It could be because, Finn Balor is injured, so they couldn't do a champion versus champion match. That could be a factor. Realistically, it's probably because they don't want a whole lot of people in the same ring at the same time with the current pandemic going on.
And there's also already, I guess, rumors of stuff going on with NXT right now about how they're dealing with the pandemic and all that stuff. I guess safety stuff. But if that's the case, then they don't want them in the Thunderdome. And especially the fact that not just NXT, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, there's cases of the stuff here and there, but also NBA, the Orlando Magic has got to go back in that arena soon. So it's just one of those things of, stuff like that. I think that's probably the reason why we're not having NXT a part of Survivor Series this year. However, I do feel that it lessens the importance of Survivor Series this year.
Yeah. But this is fantasy booking, so we are putting in somewhat of what we either thought should have happened, wish would have happened, kind of like that. I will say that injuries are, you can't stop an injury. So, obviously, the NXT champion, Finn Balor, is injured, so he would not be on the card for either one of us. At least, not for me. Is it the same for you?
He
was not on the
for
card.
My entire list, I'll go ahead and say it now. I took in consideration, I said, if NXT were able to be there, what it would be. However, I took in consideration of the pandemic. So NXT UK is not a part of it.
Yeah, I didn't put any.
Finn Balor is not a part of it because he's injured at the moment.
Tegan Knox.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to put in there, and I'll mention it. But because I was like, I want to still keep in a realistic world that we are in right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what if NXT was able to go there?
Semi-realistic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
given the pandemic, you could also, that could have been, the reason that they couldn't do a triple, team. But, like you said, with the travel restrictions, no NXT UK, with the injuries or, possible reasons why they're sidelined, you can't put them in. So.
Yeah. So I kept that in consideration. I also kept in consideration that some of these people probably were in a War Games match the night before at TakeOver.
Possibly, yeah.
So I was like, maybe they need a break.
Well, actually, I don't know if NXT is actually planning anything for
I
the
don't
month of
know,
November.
but
I think it's the beginning of December.
In my
fantasy
booking, War Games happen. I don't know, who was in what or whatever. But I took in consideration that there's probably people who just went through a War Games match, so I kind of left some of them out. However, you will see NXT people that probably are going to be in a War Games match this year if they hold it.
Yeah.
That are on the card. So I mean, you got it's just the same thing as Adam Cole from 2019. He was in a championship match at Survivor Series, but the night before he was in War Games.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But I try to make it as realistic possible. But if NXT was there, what could I do with it?
And a little ground rules for this. This is fantasy booking, but what we're going to do in it, and probably in the future, we will discuss the matches as they would happen from start to finish. So what we would have as, if you wanted to do it, the pre-show, the beginning match on the main card, mid-card matches all the way up into the main event, co-main event. We will discuss, possible spots during the match as, in booking. You may not book the entire match, but you would say, I want to see this match or this spot in this match, this spot in this match. You also discuss the winners for each match. And for Survivor Series, we will discuss not the entire match probably for who would get eliminated first, or each elimination, but we would say, if we want to do, we could probably say who gets eliminated in what order.
The way I'm going to definitely do
we will definitely say who gets eliminated first from each brand, and then possibly go on from there.
Yeah.
If it's an elimination match.
Yeah.
We could also say, what teams are left, or what person's left standing between two, who takes the pinfall, who doesn't, this kind of stuff. And I will say, this is fantasy booking, so this is just the way we would do it. For Survivor Series especially, this is, point based. So like who gets what point, for SmackDown, Raw, or NXT. Ties are valid. I say this because even though a Survivor Series pay-per-view has not had a tie, bragging rights had a lot of SmackDown versus Raw team stuff, and just one-on-ones, that kind of stuff, champion versus champion. There was a tie at bragging rights 2010. That was an interpromotional match. It was Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler. Daniel Bryan was the United States champion at the time. At least we think. He probably would have been at that time.
Yeah, I think
he
so.
was on Raw. Dolph Ziggler was on SmackDown. This was 2010. Dolph Ziggler definitely would have been on SmackDown because of his feud with Edge during that year. So it ended in a tie with SmackDown winning the main event. So it did end in a tie. So that's my justification for if there are any ties in the finals. And we will mention points afterwards. So, but to begin, I want to let Clinton have the floor. I'll insert different things here and there if I have a question or something or a comment. But you go ahead and start off with your fantasy booking.
All right. So first off, when we talk about the 5-on-5-on-5 matches, or just the brand versus brand match that has eliminations, I put who was eliminated first from each brand, and then who is the sole survivor of the winning team. That's pretty much how I did it. I didn't want to go through each person. It would take forever. So I try to do it as good as possible. So my card is a 6-match card. It's a little shorter, but they've been doing shorter cards anyway. I did one pre-show match, and it's not a brand supremacy match. It is Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross because they've been having a thing going on.
I figured you would have put 24/7 title on there.
Not necessarily. You have to hear it before you start judging.
Well, no, I was just gonna say pre-show, but
no, yeah,
you couldn't. I don't know if you could technically do that for any show, just because I think it's just a Raw exclusive title. But then again, this is fantasy, so if it is like that,
but Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross because they've been having some stuff going on, and I had Alexa Bliss taking it. Obviously she needs to, she needs to have that win to kind of build up the Fiend storyline and stuff like that. So Alexa Bliss takes the cake on this one. But moving on to the regular show, the first one is a 4-on-4-on-4 supremacy match between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT.
Why 4-on-4-on-4?
2 teams from each show.
So kind of like how Survivor Series, what was it?
I didn't want an 8-on-8
I think
2016,
2017 did.
Yeah, so I just
they had multiple tag teams.
I had 2 teams from each show kind of just go at it. So for Raw, I had the New Day, which is Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, and then I also had Miz and Morrison on there. Hey, ho ho. For SmackDown, I had the Street Profits, and I also had Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. I had Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch and Breezango.
Oh, so you didn't do the tag team champions?
Yeah, I did.
No, just a triple threat tag team match.
Oh, no. No, I had the champions, and then I had another team with them. They've been having some stuff with Miz and Morrison in the New Day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a little interesting just because you put feuding teams together.
Yes, because Breezango lost the titles to them, and then Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode are obviously going to be probably in the title picture once this whole Survivor Series thing in real life's gone. So I just put kind of feuding tag teams together to see what they would do.
Yeah.
So the first one, the first person eliminated from each show, For SmackDown, Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, so you did make this an elimination.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Each person you can get eliminated. It's not just
it is kind of like Survivor Series. I think it was 2016 where they had this.
But the first person
similar.
The first person from SmackDown that gets eliminated is Dolph Ziggler. The first person from Raw would be Xavier Woods, and the first person from NXT would be Fandango. I just figured that would make it.
Man, you kind of gave, especially Dolph, you gave him the short end of the stick.
Well, screw Dolph
as
Ziggler.
A former sole survivor.
I like Dolph Ziggler, but screw Dolph Ziggler right now.
But as a former sole survivor, you make him get out first.
Yes, because I like Robert Roode more. Anyway.
Yeah, but still.
The sole survivors are the Street Profits, making SmackDown take the cake on that one. So, SmackDown is up 1 point. So, after this, we'll have another non-promotional match. It is an unsanctioned match between Jey Uso and Kevin Owens. I just figured maybe that this would be a possible match, and I thought that would be interesting. It's getting away from the Elias, Jeff Hardy stuff, so you just have a one-on-one with them so that we can have something a little more interesting. Jey Uso wins this to keep kind of the storyline with Roman and the Samoan family and all that stuff. But, yeah, so pretty much as a basic one-on-one unsanctioned match. Someone's going through that announce table, you know what I mean? And someone's getting a chair shot. But anyway, the next match on the card would be a 5-on-5-on-5 female brand match. This would be on Raw. Asuka, the champion, Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler as the tag champions with Lana and Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce is kind of getting brought up as a solo, and Lana is going to keep going through tables. That's just how it is right now. For SmackDown,
this is the traditional women's, right?
Yes. For SmackDown, I have Sasha Banks as the champion, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Bayley, and Carmella.
I can see what you did there because it's kind of similar to how you did the tag team one. Just a lot of people feuding, but
yeah, I just kind of like have people who get along, but also people who feud.
One you had Sasha and Bayley. That's the first one. Carmella is entering into that, so that's a feud. That's about it for SmackDown for feuds technically. But Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, they haven't really done as much. So,
and for NXT for the women's, I have Io Shirai as a champion, Candice LeRae, Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, and Toni Storm. A couple from NXT lineup for last year, and a couple of SmackDown people from the lineup from last year.
Yeah.
So the first person that was gone from Raw is Lana. The way I kind of pictured it was the moment the bell rang, she was the first one in. Nia Jax pulls her out, slams her through the table, and then just rolls her in, and someone from either show takes the pin for that.
I would have said she got counted out.
No, I think that they threw her in and let her get pinned. A lot of speculation says that she's going to be the sole survivor of Survivor Series.
That's what I'm thinking.
I want to do the opposite. I would like just her get slammed through, and then Miro's still mad. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, let me ask you a question. Sorry to stop you, but...
You're okay.
Let me ask. For the matches, especially since they're a triple threat, they don't start out with 3 people, right? It's 2 people, but then any can tag in? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's pretty much how the old traditional 3.
Well, how did they do it last year? I forget. Was it a triple threat?
But
okay.
I mean, the way I kind of take it is
yours,
that,
yours. I'll probably do that for mine.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how when I started watching wrestling, that's how it was. So I just figured just do it like that.
Yeah.
The first person from SmackDown to be eliminated, believe it or not, is Sasha Banks. Get the champion out first. I know that's a little crazy.
No, I can see that as being something Bayley does.
Yeah.
Or Carmella.
I don't want
both.
all of them to be like them targeting, but I think it would be interesting for them to do that.
Yeah.
So, and then the first person from NXT, because it just makes sense in a way for all the people, Toni Storm was the first one to get eliminated. I like Toni Storm. She's great, but at the same time, I figured out of them, it would probably make sense. So, it doesn't seem like the feuding people were the person who gets
Toni
out.
Storm, Ember Moon, Shotzi Blackheart, and Candice LeRae. Who else?
Io Shirai.
Okay.
Yeah, the champions are in the matches.
That's why I was like, I forgot. So, all
right. And then the winner would be NXT for this one, and the sole survivor was Shotzi Blackheart.
Okay.
It makes sense. I could see her being by herself in there, and she's the winner.
Yeah,
Just
especially
one
the way
sole
they're pushing her
survivor.
now.
So I think that's how it would end.
Yeah.
The next match is also not a brand supremacy match. It is
Lord.
Dominic Mysterio versus Buddy Murphy.
Aaliyah on a pole match.
Not a Liana pole match, but it's just a match between them two. The way I kind of got it was Dominic would win via DQ because Aaliyah would give him a low blow.
Give Dominic a low blow?
Yes.
Well, that could work. That would definitely work. That would definitely cement Aaliyah as siding with Buddy. But my thing is, I'm sorry, not Buddy Murphy. Murphy. My thing is with Murphy kind of seeming like he's siding again with Seth Rollins. I feel like this is either there's two ways that Aaliyah can be taken in this. She stays sided with Murphy and goes with Seth Rollins as a whole grand scheme by Rollins, or it turns out that this was a plan by Rollins all along to split the Mysterios up, and Aaliyah does eventually see this, and this leads to like a big match for like either Dominic and Ray versus Murphy and Rollins, or just Rollins and Mysterio, either Dominic or Ray, one of the two.
Yeah.
I could definitely see this if, for the love of God, please don't do this. If they continue this feud until the next WrestleMania, I can see this being Dominic versus Seth Rollins. Like
At WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania. Yeah. This will be Dominic's like WrestleMania debut, but it's, akin to his first match in the WWE. It will be a rematch from SummerSlam where Dominic wins.
Yeah.
Now that's later on, but we could possibly book that. But so Aaliyah gets the DQ victory for Dominic because she low blows him.
Yeah, but she was doing it to help Murphy though.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so it was just kind of like that. But yeah, so Dominic wins via DQ, but really Murphy wins because he's not the one who gets low blood. So
yeah,
but yeah, Dominic wins via DQ, and then after that, one last non-brand supremacy match: Bobby Lashley, the United States Champion, versus Mustafa Ali. Here's the reason why I chose this: it would build up for something for December for TLC, and that is that during the match. What is Mia Yim's retribution name?
Reckoning?
Is it?
Reckoning? Yeah.
I thought that was supposed to be...
I think it's Reckoning.
Oh, wait, whatever. Mia Yim comes in and she distracts again and like kind of how she was on Raw that one time and all that stuff. Pretty much, Mustafa Ali gets the win and becomes the United States Champion so that they can take something to make them more important.
Yeah.
Because right now, Retribution is not doing very much. So... pretty much, and then they have a whole like breakout fight at the end, but Mustafa Ali does win the United States Championship, which will set up for something for TLC.
Possibly TLC, yeah.
And then the final match that I have for Survivor Series for the men's 5-on-5
so I see what you're doing now, so let me guess. The champions are going to be part of the Survivor Series 5-on-5.
Yes.
Okay, so you did it in that way. Okay.
So the way I did it was, what I was going to do was that the main champion and the mid-card champion would be the co-captains. However...
Raw couldn't.
Because Bobby Lashley was United States champion, he was in a match. I improvised. Yes, there is, but I improvised. Hear me out.
Oh, God.
For Raw, Randy Orton and R-Truth
of course,
are the co-captains.
So, hold on. So, if R-Truth gets pinned, does that mean whoever pinned him was 24/7?
It's off limits.
Okay.
That's not something I made up. I wasn't thinking about that, but they do sometimes take it off limits for that, and stuff like that. So, R-Truth and Randy Orton are co-captains.
I would say if you had Drew Gulak on that team, he would just roll up R-Truth.
Yeah, but AJ Styles...
after Truth gets eliminated... like Drew Gulak comes out, rolls him up with a new ref, and it's just a title change mid-match.
But Randy Orton, AJ Styles, Tucker, and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
For Raw. For SmackDown, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Otis, Rey Mysterio.
Okay.
NXT, Johnny Gargano, because Finn's injured.
Yeah.
Santos Escobar, because he's the Cruiserweight champion. Dexter Loomis, Killian Dane, Drake Maverick.
Okay. Not bad. No, I'm not saying.
You gotta work
No,
with,
I'm
okay?
saying it's not bad. Especially like you said, you have to work with what you have to work with a limited roster as is. Like they would probably have to do that anyway.
So the first person eliminated for Raw is Tucker, and the first person eliminated for SmackDown is Otis.
Let me
Pretty
guess.
much, they get into a big fight and
They get counted out or
they
something.
pretty much get counted out, or they kind of just get disqualified from the match because of it. So they both knock each other out, pretty much. First person from NXT, because it makes sense, Drake Maverick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Killian Dane did anything, because they're kind of getting along now.
Yeah.
But he gets eliminated first because he is kind of the weak link, even though I love Drake Maverick. The sole survivors for this match are Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre for Raw. The reason I do this is that Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre are obviously feuding, which is, it's taken way too long, but they're still feuding. They both win, and then at the very end, Claymore to Orton, and then Drew McIntyre holds the day championship up above him. So Raw wins, but Drew McIntyre still has beef with Randy Orton, obviously. Which ends Survivor Series in a tie.
So who's the tie between?
All of them.
Oh, so they all get
SmackDown
Oh,
was one.
okay, yeah, because you only had technically like three matches. Okay.
SmackDown won the tag team with the Street Profits.
Yeah.
Raw won the men's. NXT won the women's. So yes.
All right. I could definitely see some similarities in some of the people and some of the match. Sort of. Definitely, you used a lot of people that I used on mine. Mine did differ a little bit, and I'll explain why. The first match on my card, I also did start with some pre-show matches. I have 2 pre-show matches, and I will explain why. The first pre-show match, all of the matches on here are for, interpromotional brand warfare stuff. So I did it differently than you. The first match, my initial idea was I was going to do all right, well, do some cruiserweight kind of stuff. But then I realized, well, the Cruiserweight Championship is only on NXT now. So I can't really do that. Technically, I can't really do that, I don't think. So I did, some high flyers or stuff like that. So the first match was a triple threat match. It was equal to 1 point, like a majority of these matches. It was Ricochet representing Raw, Aleister Black representing SmackDown, and Santos Escobar, the Cruiserweight Champion, representing NXT. I only put Aleister Black in this match because I forgot to put him in the 5-on-5 because I was going to do that. But I decided, you know what, let me just put him in this match and it'll make sense. It's a pre-show match. It's fine. Escobar takes the win. Preferably pinning Ricochet. That way, it kind of continues the storyline where, not the burial of Ricochet, but Ricochet's being, beaten down a lot recently. And it would make more sense for Ricochet to take this loss to kind of keep that trend going. Maybe result in a heel turn or maybe a change of character for Ricochet. It keeps Aleister Black looking strong by not taking the pinfall, and it makes Escobar looking strong because he is, he's a Cruiserweight champion. He's a big player in NXT right now, so, it looks good on him. The next match is sort of what you were doing, but not exactly for women's stuff. It's a women's tag team championship match with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, the champions, representing Raw, Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott representing SmackDown, and Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai representing NXT. Raquel Gonzalez was the one with Dakota Kai, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was making sure because I know Mercedes Martinez was not.
Oh, absolutely not.
I was making sure because I couldn't remember her name at first. So I was like, please tell me it's not Mercedes Martinez. I don't think she was. She was part of, Retribution at first. So I was like, I don't think she's it. But, I mean, clearly you would have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler retaining and getting the point for Raw. Probably pinning Liv Morgan or Ruby Riott, one of the two. I would, and if you had to, maybe pin Dakota Kai possibly, just because they're smaller. They're smaller women compared to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who are tougher, physically bigger than them, would demolish them. It would make sense, And Dakota Kai, it would make sense also because she's the heel versus a face team. It would kind of make sense. So Raw would take the win there. So the first match on the main card. Let's see, what can we do? I didn't write them in order, but like of the other matches, I'm kind of thinking, all right, what should I do? All right, so the first match on the main card will be the tag team triple threat match. So you have Street Profits, the SmackDown tag team champions, the New Day, the Raw tag team champions, and Lorcan and Birch, the NXT tag team champions.
The Pat McAfee Squad.
Yeah, that's probably their name.
That's
probably.
not their name, but
I wouldn't put it past WWE. But it was kind of hard for me trying to decide this because for all three teams, they have momentum. You have the New Day, they've had momentum for the last couple of years. You've had Street Profits, they're certain momentum. They're kind of a bigger team now. And then you have Lorcan and Birch, who are starting to, kind of build up. As a tag team, like the tag team champions, they haven't really blossomed yet, I guess you could say. So it was hard for me to decide the winner here, but I will say it would probably be Street Profits. That's kind of my prediction as well for the actual Survivor Series, that Street Profits will win, because they are kind of building them up. They wouldn't be tag team champions right now for nothing. You know what I mean? Right, especially going against New Day, which is who they would take the pin to. They would pin either member of the New Day, probably, I'd say probably Xavier, because you had Kofi take the fall when New Day lost the titles to Cesaro and Nakamura. So they'd probably take the pin there. And, not horrible, but that is a SmackDown point. The next match is it's kind of different for these next couple matches. The next match would be the women's championship, or women's champion triple threat match. Sasha Banks for SmackDown, Asuka for Raw, and Io Shirai for NXT. There's one clear way of knowing who would win. Or there's one clear winner, and that's Io Shirai. You wouldn't want her to look weak, especially right now, becoming a dominant champion in NXT. Her being that champion, Sasha just won, but there's also running the risk of a Carmella run-in. Asuka being the champion, she hasn't really had anything going on right now besides Zelina Vega, and I don't see Zelina Vega doing anything. So I'd say this would probably come down to Asuka probably trying to lock on the Asuka lock onto Sasha Banks, Io Shirai coming off the top rope and hitting her moonsault, stopping the submission and getting the pin on Sasha. That's how I see it. So NXT would take the point. Io Shirai would win. The next match would be the mid-card triple threat match between Bobby Lashley, the United States champion on Raw, Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental champion on SmackDown, and Johnny Gargano, the North American champion on NXT. I mean, come on. This is a no-brainer match. Just like in real life, a no-brainer match. Bobby Lashley would win. He would dominate Sami Zayn and Gargano. Either way you pronounce it. I know I pronounce it one way, but it's fine. Bobby Lashley would take the win here, probably with some help from the Hurt Business. I'd say, Lashley might get double teamed and taken out by a hula kick. Get sent out to the ring. Gargano probably Gargano would lock in the Gargano escape, only for Varev to be distracted by MVP, and Cedric Alexander comes in, hits the lumbar check on Gargano. Lashley comes in, spears Sami Zayn. Gargano's out of the ring. Bobby Lashley would win. That's how I would kind of see that going on. You would run the risk of having Retribution come in, but on this kind of pay-per-view, I doubt it, just because it is like a bigger pay-per-view and they're only Raw. They might have something to do on the actual Survivor Series against Bobby Lashley, but I don't know. But I would say Raw takes the win here, having their second win. The next match would definitely be the women's traditional 5-on-5-on-5 elimination Survivor Series tag team match. So I did something a little different. So I did team captains for both the Raw, or not the Raw, both the women's and the men's traditional tag teams. The Raw women's tag team, their captain would be Dana Brooke. The reason I did Dana Brooke.
Interesting.
Well, the reason I did it, like, you don't see Dana Brooke a lot right now on TV. And when you do, it's not in a big capacity. I'm pretty sure she stayed on Raw as well. I don't think she moved to SmackDown. But, you know, Dana, get her in that position to where she's a leader. She tries to rally the team, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then you have Lacey Evans, Lana, just because do the same thing that happened on Monday, or that past Monday, where she got, you know, onto the team. Naomi, which we haven't seen in a while, and Peyton Royce. For SmackDown, you would have Bayley as the team captain. You know, she's fresh off of her championship loss, so she would be the one leading the team. Bianca Belair is also on the team. Natalya and Tamina. Tamina we haven't seen in a while. Put her on the team. She's the powerhouse of the team. And then Billie Kay. So I'll get to an interaction in a minute. For NXT, almost similar to you, Shotzi Blackheart would be the team captain. And then you would have Toni Storm, Xia Li, who has recently been, you know, kind of pushed more, trying to get her more on TV, at least a little bit.
I really wanted to put her on my team, but
Yeah.
it was just one of those things of, like, it just didn't fit.
Didn't fit her, kind of overlooked.
I also wanted to put Kaylee Ray from
Kaylee Ray?
Kaylee Ray.
Kaylee Ray?
Because
it's so
Kylie
difficult.
Ray is the one who retired.
They're so difficult. I would have put...
I wanted her with, you know, with the team, but it just didn't, you know, with all the stuff, it just didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. And then I also put Kaden Carter on the team, you know.
Okay.
She's not, as far as I know, not really been used as much. But, I mean, she is one of the more of the up-and-coming talent on NXT, especially their women's division. So, you know, give her a chance to shine. And then Ember Moon. Had, you know, Tegan Nox not been injured, I would have put Tegan Nox on here. And Casey Catanzaro, I'm still up in the air. Is she still with the company?
I haven't. Okay, so here's the thing. It makes me sound like I'm not a wrestling fan, or I'm not keeping up to date with it. I haven't seen her in a very long time. Me personally, of what I have watched, I haven't seen her very much.
Well, especially
recently.
the first hiatus.
But I think if she's still on the roster, that maybe she's been on all the NXT shows and I just haven't paid attention. I don't know. I can only sit down for so much wrestling during my week. You know, we're so busy. I mean, there's just so much I can do.
Because I would have put her on the team. Definitely.
Absolutely.
If
she
I
was there last year, though, wasn't she? She was on 2019 Survivor
Maybe.
Series
I think
NXT.
so. But I definitely would have put her on the team had, you know, I known her and Tegan Nox would have been on the team. Probably replacing Ember Moon, maybe, and maybe Toni Storm, possibly. But
I just thought Ember Moon, you know, she just came back. She's a big star. So I just figured, you know, let's put her in there.
But one thing that I would say here, the first elimination. Now, keep in mind, this is triple threat. I'm doing not just one-on-one. This is a triple threat format elimination. Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, and Kaden Carter would start the match. Peyton Royce and Billie Kay would automatically go and double team Kaden Carter, knock her out of the ring, not eliminate her, but knock her out. They have a stare off, And this is what pushes Billy Kay to turn heel. Billy Kay would pin Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce would be the first elimination from Team Raw and overall. This would solidify Peyton Royce as a face and Billy Kay as a heel, possibly a bigger heel on SmackDown. And then Kaden Carter, we get a roll up on Billy Kay, eliminating her as well. So that would be the first elimination from SmackDown. The first elimination from NXT would probably be Ember Moon. Ember Moon gets tagged in at some point. Probably gets taken out by, I'd say, Bayley. So Bayley gets the pinfall on her. But the Sole Survivors would be almost similar to you, but not exact. The Sole Survivors would be from Team NXT. It would be Team Captain Shotzi Blackheart and Toni Storm. They would be the two winners. They're being kind of pushed a little bit more. So I'd say they'd be the Sole Survivors for this. So there's another point for NXT. The co-main event, or co-main event, if you want to say that, is the Men's World Championship triple threat match. Keep in mind, Finn Balor is injured. Representing SmackDown would be the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. The WWE Champion Randy Orton would be representing Raw. Finn Balor's replacement representing NXT would be Adam Cole. This shows Adam Cole as a main event guy, a main event player. He'd hang in there with Randy Orton and Reigns. Probably a table spot in there. Get Reigns taken out early on. But ultimately, you would see Adam Cole would get the... he would be the one taking the pin. Roman would win because, that's how WWE books it. WWE loves Roman. So don't change anything there. Roman gets the SmackDown point. But Adam Cole still looks strong, even though he got the pin. And Randy Orton doesn't take the pin, so he's still a dominant champion on Raw. For the traditional men's 5-on-5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match, Team Raw's captain is AJ Styles. Then you would have Drew McIntyre, hot off of his championship loss to Randy Orton. Jeff Hardy, who, is he would fit more on a team. Big Boy Keith Lee, so you got to have that powerhouse. And then the Money in the Bank winner, not Money in the Bank, Mr. Money in the Bank, The Miz. For Team SmackDown, you got your team captain, Big E. Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro on the team. Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. So you still got, bigger players on the team. You have two members of a tag team, so they'll work better anyway. And then for Team NXT, you got the team captain Tommaso Ciampa with Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Damian Priest, and Killian Dane with his manager Drake Maverick. How I picture this match going, you have probably, I'd say Kevin Owens starting off with SmackDown, Drew McIntyre and Cameron Grimes starting off. Your first elimination would be Cameron Grimes because he'd be kind of like cocky, try to go after him. You have Kevin Owens who gives him a stunner, and then Drew McIntyre hits him with a Claymore and eliminates him. So he'd be the first elimination. Probably, I'd say Miz would be the first elimination from Raw next because Drew McIntyre would probably distract him. You'd probably have Damian Priest get a roll-up. Then for SmackDown, the first elimination would probably be, I'd say KO, because Rollins would screw him over somehow. So Kevin Owens would be the first elimination from SmackDown. But the winner and the sole survivor would be Big E. Because, they're pushing Big E a lot. And having Big E as the sole survivor would do not only his career good, but for them solidifying him as, the top guy on SmackDown, like possibly pushing him forward to WrestleMania maybe. Same thing with how they did Keith Lee, even though they had Keith Lee lose to Roman. It would make sense for Big E to win here and be the sole survivor because, he's the only guy on his team to win. He's only the only one there. Have him look strong, like Keith Lee did with, standing there with Roman and being the only person there. And, hitting, big moves on him. Same thing with, Big E. You would have him in there with Keith Lee. You would have him in there with, Ciampa, bigger guys from these brands. And, more star power. Have Big E get put over by them and it'd be better, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, even though that gives SmackDown the win, overall it would be a tie. It would be Raw 2, SmackDown 3, and NXT 3. So it would be a tie between SmackDown and NXT with Raw taking the loss again for this year. Not done intentionally, just done because if you look at the matches, only a few of them would favor Raw for the most part. I mean, I could see Raw winning if you did it, you would see Raw winning the men's traditional, but then you run the risk of burying a lot of people. Mainly, you run the risk of burying Big E and Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre. On NXT side, you run the risk of burying Damian Priest and Ciampa. And Cameron Grimes, he's doing his own thing. Bronson Reed, I don't think he's been as pushed, but that'll probably do it for my booking. Now, it's not as solid. If you have any, tweaks you want to add, you let me know.
Oh, to yours?
Yeah.
No, I think it was pretty solid. I do like the fact that you had Big E winning. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't see any tweaks. I just felt for me, which, maybe you see Survivor Series different.
Yeah.
That you don't need every match to be brand supremacy.
Yeah.
Because then it just becomes pointless. But, I'm not saying that yours was bad. You booked it very well to do that. But you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like how Bragging Rights was, except you had, a couple championship matches.
Well, that's how they've taken
it
now. You know what I mean?
Bragging Rights died for a reason, so they don't need to make Survivor Series Bragging Rights.
But they have made a Bragging Rights recently. Especially in the last 4 years with, this champion versus this champion. Well, more of, the last 2 years. They've done, champion versus champion and this and that, you know what I mean? And when it first started off, it wasn't really all the champion versus champion stuff because they had, other matches and stuff. But, this, this kind of, now, not all the match types and not all the people, but this is, I felt like mine was kind of similar to what WWE might have done. With the, maybe not even in, the match placement, but I can definitely see them putting, a pre-show match for that. All their mid-card stuff, the women's championships, this and that. And, maybe the placement of, how the main events were, but maybe not necessarily all the people. Especially in the tag team matches. And they guarantee wouldn't have done a women's tag team championship match because they had the tag champions in the freaking, women's tag team match right now, so can't really have that. They didn't finalize the women's team, did they, for SmackDown?
No, I think SmackDown
or the men's team.
And yeah, I think that for the men's and women's have to still be finished. I think they have one more left on SmackDown for
men.
For
I know
right
yeah.
now, yeah. So yeah,
I don't know who will take that.
It looks like it's going to be pretty good. I think that
hopefully
for the most part, both teams are decently stacked.
I mean,
For men's, women's,
yeah.
I like. I think it's more unique than usual, but at the same time, I think the only reason they put Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler so they could do the thing with Lana, or the opposite,
Yeah,
So,
I have the feeling that they will make Lana the sole survivor, probably.
That'd be interesting.
With the way they're doing it, I have no doubt that they will make her the sole survivor.
Yeah,
possibly either get put through a table afterwards or put Nia through a table, one of the two. Maybe cause Nia to get eliminated and that makes her the sole survivor, and then she after she gets to win, she gets put through the table probably.
Yeah.
That might be how they book it.
Yeah.
But definitely look forward to some of the fantasy booking episodes in the future. We might do how we would have booked a past pay-per-view. Maybe, who knows. But any ideas for the future episodes?
I mean,
or coming up at least.
The thing is I could sit there and I could spitball a bunch of ideas, but the thing is I would really like for the listeners to maybe come up with some ideas, so we give them what they want.
Yeah.
I could come up with some ideas maybe in the future, but if you have an idea, put it in the comments, put it on our Instagram, do whatever, so we can get some ideas rolling, and so we can give you the quality of recordings that you want.
Yeah.
And we can put them out as quickly as possible. I definitely want to continue trying to do a very regular schedule. Things might be a little easier here soon, so hopefully we can be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially with some of the transitions we're going to take to have a better editing schedule that fits in with everyone's work schedule. So hopefully it'll definitely do better. We'll have more conversations talking about that amongst ourselves. And we'll definitely have, hopefully, more updates coming up, depending on how we're going to do the physical podcast, like I said, the end of the year or the beginning of this year. But that'll probably do it for this episode. Thank you all for listening. And if you're an avid listener, thank you very much. Even if you're a new listener, thank you very much. We appreciate it. If you like what we do here on the LA Do Wrestling Podcast, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you're notified of whenever we upload a new podcast. Hopefully it'll be more consistent weekly again, like we were doing or aiming to do. You can follow the Wrestling Podcast account on Instagram at LADo Wrestling _podcast. You can follow the regular podcast account on Instagram at LADo _podcast. You can find it on YouTube as well, the LADo podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at LADobrand.
You can follow me on Instagram at ClintonWells2001, and you can also find our podcast music engineer at chance.cummings.507.
And as always, thank y'all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you.